What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my channel, Runs Reviews, and we gonna get into this thing the right way. This is my debut video on my channel. This is a new channel. We doing 90s review as well as movies from today, but we gonna start with the 90s. I was born in the early 90s, and I grew attachments to a lot of these movies. And today we gonna be reviewing Money Talks, starring Chris Tucker and James Russell. Charlie Sheen, he plays James Russell in this movie. And we gonna get into it, y'all. But if you like this movie, sit back and just enjoy this review. You know what I'm saying? We gonna get into it. I love this movie. I remember every line from this movie. It's a classic. It's a slept-on classic too. People don't really talk about this movie a lot. But if you like this movie, just sit back and watch, and enjoy the review. So anyways, like I said, getting into Money Talks, came out in 1997, starring Chris Tucker. He did this movie right after Friday, and I believe he might have did The Fifth Element. If anybody remember that movie, he might have did The Fifth Element right before this movie came out. So The Fifth Element, it wasn't too much of a box office hit, but if you mention it to people that was around back then, they'll tell you that, yeah, I remember The Fifth Element. But it wasn't one of his hot movies though. Chris Tucker, it was just one of the movies I feel like they were trying to fill space with. So anyways, let's get into Money Talks. My favorite movie of all time. It's funny. It's a classic. It's a gem. People don't really talk about it a lot today, but it's just a good movie, y'all. And straighten up my, trying to keep my hair nice, you know what I'm saying? Trying to keep my hair nice, we live in a time where, everybody wearing the bonnet. So I said, let me go ahead and throw mine on, so I'm wearing the bonnet here. Got I call it the Fresh Prince. I call it the Fresh Prince bonnet. If you look at it, it kind of looked like the jacket that he used to kind of wear in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He always used to wear his jacket inside out, and he just had the most swag on it. So I kind of got my idea from that. So anyways, though, let's get into this movie. All right, Money Talk, starring Chris Tucker. It starts off with him in this Mercedes Benz, and he just rolling down the street, bumping some Barry White, my first, my last, my everything. And he just in this Mercedes Benz, just going who knows where. He's on the freeway. He's in LA. The movie takes place in LA, and he's probably on the 405 freeway. And so we just see him driving on the freeway, and next thing we know, he pulls and goes to the LA Coliseum. You know what I'm saying? The LA Coliseum is to people who's like into sports, it's the home football field of the USC Trojans, which is my favorite team. I love the Trojans. I'm a big USC fan. So the Coliseum, I'm very familiar with it. I've been to the Coliseum several times, for different like events. I've been there for Rams games, USC games, all that. So very familiar with that venue. So anyways, he's pulling up to the LA Coliseum, and he meets with his guy, Roland. Now, Roland is a guy that he scalps tickets. He gets tickets for cheap, and he resells tickets to anybody that's trying to buy it off of him. So Chris Tucker is pulling up to Roland, and Chris Tucker, I'm gonna go by his character name in this movie. His character name is Franklin Hatchet. Franklin Hatchet is his name in this movie, so I'm gonna call him Franklin Hatchet. But I'm always, kind of go back to, Chris Tucker too, just so we can keep everything, on track. But he pulls up to the LA Coliseum, and he meets with his guy Roland. And like I said, Roland is selling tickets. So he meets with him, and he's asking him, like, what you got? What kind of tickets you got today? And Roland says, I got some Phantom of the Opera tickets. And immediately Chris Tucker, Franklin Hatchet, he's kind of pissed off about that, because he's going like, Phantom of the Opera. He going like, what? Like, black people ain't trying to see that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we into Luther Vandross. You know what I'm saying? Like, we trying to get to the Laker game. We ain't trying to see no Phantom of the Opera. And he said, and Roland over here trying to explain to him, like, hey, it's money and culture. But no, he ain't trying to hear that though. Franklin trying to get to the good shit. He trying to get to the Dodger tickets. He trying to get to the Laker tickets. You know what I'm saying? He trying to get to the tickets and to the things that he know that people is going, jump on right away. He ain't too sure about no Phantom of the Opera. So anyways, though, my man Roland over here trying to, convince him to get these Phantom of the Opera tickets to take them back to sell to these to the people to make some money off of. So he eventually, take the Phantom of the Opera tickets, and he gets back into the Mercedes that clearly you could tell, like, this Mercedes, like, you could tell that he don't own this Mercedes. Like, it's something going on with this Mercedes. You know what I'm saying? But it's a nice Mercedes. It's a convertible. He just rolling in it, and we see him pull up to the car wash. Okay. Now, this car wash he works at, he's actually I'm assuming that he's actually an employee at this car wash, but he's also selling like illegal things. Like, he's selling like, you know, stolen things off of like probably the back of a truck, you know, and he's selling like all type of things, you know, like stereo systems. And you can see in the background, like, you got the workers at the car wash over here carrying the stuff, you know, just back and forth. Come here, Nipsey. Come here, baby. Come here. This is Nipsey. He wants to get in the video. Come here. Come here, man. Come on. Come on. Come on. What's wrong? All right. Anyways, though, you can see the workers going back and forth with the illegal stuff. They just carrying it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they doing everything but washing cars at this car wash. They just carrying the illegal, you know, stolen stuff that everybody is trying to buy, you know. So, getting back to my main man, Chris Tucker, we could see him selling the Phantom of the Opera tickets to a guy. And first of all, when he pulls back to the car wash, he meets up with the person that actually owns the Mercedes Benz that he been driving around in and having a joyride in. And the guy is pissed, of course, because he going like, where my car been? Like, you supposed to be just washing it, not taking it for a joyride. And Chris Tucker just giving him the run around like, where you been? I've been trying to find you. Like, I've been looking for you. Where you been? Get the hell on. So Chris Tucker just clearly don't care. You know what I'm saying? He just trying to do him. So, like I said, he gets back and he sells the Phantom of the Opera tickets for $200 to this guy that, you know, that was at the car wash, one of the customers. So he's making money, you know what I'm saying? He's over here hustling, you know, trying to do him. Next thing we know, we get Charlie Sheen. We get Charlie Sheen, who's basically, he's a reporter for a local news channel in LA. He's a reporter for a local news channel in LA. So he just clearly don't have nothing else to do. It must be a slow day on crime, and he's basically trying to find something to report on. So he go gets Chris Tucker, Franklin Hatchet, you know, who's over here selling illegal things and stolen stuff, and he's trying to get him in trouble. He's trying to get a story off of him. So, okay, he gets his camera crew, which is, you know, one guy and him. He gets his, you know, the camera in front of him, and he's basically trying to get him to snitch on himself. You know, he's trying to get Chris Tucker to snitch on himself about what he's doing at this car wash. So he's trying to get an interview out of him. Chris Tucker over here, he's wearing a white beater and he wearing some blue jeans, and he over here talking about, let me get my hair together. Let me get straight. You know, come on, let's go. And then clearly, like, Charlie's kind of annoyed by him already, just, you know, by how he's acting, you know. And so basically he's trying to set Chris Tucker up. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to set Chris Tucker up. And keep in mind, like I said, Chris Tucker ain't really causing no disturbance. He just selling, you know, some tickets. He's selling, you know, some things that he might have stole off the back of a truck. But it's like this, bro. Like, he ain't causing no type of disturbance. He ain't hurting nobody, nothing. Keep in mind, you know, Charlie Sheen came up on his territory. You know, he was minding his own business. Chris Tucker was minding his own business. So anyways, though, he's trying to get an interview. And next thing we know, we get a guy named Carmine. Now, Carmine is the guy that Chris Tucker is working for. I guess he's working for Carmine. He supposed to be selling things for Carmine out on the street. And, you know, Carmine is clearly irritated with Chris Tucker. Like, he's asking him where his money, when I'm going to get paid. And, you know, he's being a little racist. You know, he talking about, well, I don't like brothers. I don't like Welchers. You know, killing you will be, you know, double the fun. And Chris Tucker basically telling him, if you kill me, how you going to get your money? You know, you can see, like, Chris Tucker, he's wise, like, he's cunning, you know. He know how to get out of, he know how to talk his way out of things, you know, and make it make sense. So, Carmine basically, brought him into his car, and, you know, they started talking. And he was like, hey, Carmine told Chris, you need to get on the street, get my money, and I ain't trying to hear nothing else. You know what I'm saying? Just bring me my money back to me. You know, like I said, Carmine is about business. Like, he's just, he's involved in this, I guess, this mafia that, like, just, they do illegal, they got like an illegal ring that they just sell, you know, I guess stolen goods, and, you know, that's how they make their money. So clearly he got Chris Tucker as his running boy. You know, basically he's out on the streets trying to sell for Carmine. So getting back to it, Chris Tucker, he gets out the car with Carmine after they had their little talk. And next thing you know, here come the police. James Russell done called Charlie Sheen, which is James Russell in the movie. He done called the police on Chris Tucker, Franklin Hatchet. He calls the police on this guy. And keep in mind, all he was doing was selling some tickets and, you know, selling some things that were stolen. But like I said, not causing a disturbance. You know what I'm saying? Nothing big. So he calls the police on Chris Tucker and they show up and they arrest him. They don't ask no questions or nothing. They just straight put him in handcuffs. And Chris Tucker over here trying to offer them $5. Tell me, I'll give you $5 if you let me go right now. Chris Tucker, you know, like I said, classic, you know, just funny guy. But he's over here talking about, I'll give you $5 if you let me go. So, and the police, they had the nerves to be like, oh, $5, you bribery, huh? You know what I'm saying? Basically trying to throw another charge on Chris, you know. Just, you know, we can see that Chris is already caught up in some trouble, you know, that he didn't even really he didn't even see it coming, you know what I'm saying? He didn't even see that coming. So, anyways, they take Chris away, and you could see, Charlie Sheen, he's proud of himself. He said, we got him. We got him. We got us another one, you know. And it's like, bro, like, come on, bro. Like, you could have got any other story on something. And we talking about L.A., right? It's a lot of crime in L.A. I'm pretty sure it was somebody getting robbed at the time. I'm pretty sure it was a bank robbery going on in progress, you know. And he just want to go to Chris Tucker, you know, place where he's working and, you know, come up with a story on him. So, like I said, Chris Tucker is in the back of the police car. He's being taken to jail. Okay. So now we get to jail. And Chris Tucker sitting in there. And who do we got in there as his cellmate? It's Faison Love. Faison Love is in there, and Chris is basically explaining how he got there. He was saying, I was minding my own business. I had, you know, he just making up stories talking about he had all these women that he was, you know, that he was in control of, and he was minding his own business, and, you know, he was talking about he had his finest hoes. That's basically what Chris Tucker was saying. And it's like they came out of nowhere and just, you know, arrested him. And, you know, just making up stories. And the whole time he talking to Faison Love, right? Faison Love is just getting comfortable. He's over here taking off his shirt. He's over here just kicking back, you know, just comfortable. You know what I'm saying? They in this holding cell. They in a holding cell, and, you know, in L.A. So, like I said, Faison Love done took off his whole shirt. You know what I'm saying? While Chris Tucker over here and explaining his story to him. So, we get back to it. And next thing you know, he's trying to explain, Chris Tucker is trying to explain how they hauled him in. You know, he talking about, well, they grabbed me like this. They grabbed me like this. And the whole time, Faison Love is going like, they grabbed you like this. And he's talking about from the back. And we know where this is going. You know, you know about, you know, jail. You know how people, you know, turn homo in there and, you know, whatnot. But, you know, nothing against it. But, you know, that's just what happens. So, he's basically explaining how they hauled him in there. And Faison Love is over here going like, he's grabbing Chris. He's going like, they took you like this. And they took you from the back. He's grabbing Chris Tucker. He's basically grabbing Chris Tucker. And he got Chris Tucker so close to him where, like, you could feel his breath on his face. Like, you could feel Faison Love. You could feel Faison Love's breath on Chris Tucker's face. And I'm talking about he got him in, like, in a bear hug. And next thing you know, Chris Tucker looking at him like, man, get the hell off me, man. Hey, where your shirt at? So it's like, you know, he catching on to what Faison Love doing. You know, he's clearly trying to, you know, Faison Love trying to get down. So, you know, shout out to Faison Love. But fast forward. We walk into the bus. We walk into the bus where they putting all the people that's going, because what it is, they had everybody in the holding cell, and this is L.A. So what it is, they had everybody in the holding cell, and what they do, once they get enough people in the holding cell, they basically transport everybody on this big bus to the downtown, to the big jail where they gonna book you at, where you gonna be staying and doing your little time at. So they getting everybody on the bus, and Chris Tucker is on there. And now keep in mind, now he done got shackled with this French guy, which is basically played. His name is Raymond Villard in the movie. He's played by Gerald Ismail, but his name is Raymond Villard. Now we don't know who Raymond Villard is at the moment, But clearly he's this guy. You could tell, like, just by looking at his presence, like, he's like this tough guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a tough guy that's trying to, you know, intimidate. He's coming across as being intimidating, I guess you could say, to, you know, as a character. You know what I'm saying? Kind of cold-blooded face, not really expression. Don't really have an expression. He's not, you know, he's not showing any type of, like, emotion or anything. He just a blank face. You know what I'm saying? But it's clearly like a hard face. So Chris Tucker done got chained up with this guy, and they getting on the bus. Now, before we even get started with anything, you could tell there's already conflict between the two. Chris Tucker was wanting to go to the back of the bus because, you know, we like to sit on the back of the bus, right? We like to be at the back of the bus, so I guess we can see everything that's going on, you know, in front of us. So he wants to go to the back of the bus, talking about Chris Tucker. But Raymond Villard, which, you know, we later know that Chris Tucker, he came up with a nickname for him. His name is Frenchie. He started calling him Frenchie. Frenchie set him down. He pulled him down because, like, keep in mind, they chained together by the feet and they chained together by the arms. So basically what he does, he pulls Chris Tucker back into the front of the bus, into the first seat on the bus. Now, it's a reason why he did this. It's a reason why he set him down in that first seat on the bus. But he snatches him down and he basically say, like, we not going to the back of the bus. You sitting right here. And then they start kind of getting into a little verbal conflict. You know, it was like, Chris Tucker said, you better come back to the bus before you get hurt. And like I said, Raymond Villard, he ain't trying to hear that. He snatches Chris Tucker right back down and see him right back down. And that's when Chris Tucker go into his whole spiel, like, okay, wait till we get off the bus. Wait till we get off the bus. Wait till we get off. I'm gonna kick your ass. And so they just going back and forth, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and he's even and here comes my favorite part, one of my favorite parts. Chris Tucker over here talking about, you know, where you from, huh? That French part of Compton? What's that you claiming? You don't know who you messing with, man. I'm deep in the streets. I slap people for fun. That's what I do, man. You want to play rough? Huh? Okay. He just started talking. Keep in mind, like, Frenchie is just looking forward. He ain't even looking back he ain't even looking at Chris is sitting right here next to him. He ain't even looking at Chris. He just looking forward. So clearly it's something on Frenchie's mind. You know, he's going like, I ain't trying to hear nothing, you know, this guy got to say to me. I got something else going on that's bigger and important. So fast forward, they going down the freeway and they traveling to the big jail where, you know, they gonna just, you know, basically transport all the people that's on that bus to, you know, so they could do their time and get booked. So we get to the part where, first of all, Chris Tucker, he's all loose on the bus. You know, he talking about, can y'all speed up, please? I got my cousins in there. I'm trying to see what they doing. Can we hurry up and get there? And everybody kind of looking at Chris like, hey, man, like, what's your problem? Like, we ain't even trying to be here, and you over here trying to speed up the process. But anyways, everybody looking at Chris all funny. And like I said, keep in mind, he's chained up with Raymond Villard, a.k.a. Frenchie. So we get to the part where the bus driver notices that it's well, first of all, let's go back. During the whole time that they going to this to the big jail, we could see that it's things going on in the background, right? We could see like it's a helicopter that's surfacing up, and we see a guy that's on the radio, and we could see some type of setup going on. I mean, they got like, it's a whole crew. They got like a spike strip that they done laid out in the middle of the road, and they basically setting it up for that bus to run into like the spike strip so they could get, you know, the bus, you know, off the road, you know, keep the bus from rolling. So, okay. Keep in mind, like I said, Chris Tucker and Frenchie is sitting at the front of the bus in the front seat. Next thing we know, the bus driver, he sees the spike strips that they done laid out. They done laid out some spike strips in the middle of the road. And before he even making a maneuver to try to avoid the spike strips, he runs into it and he loses control of the bus. So now all we see is a guy in a helicopter that's pressing a button, and it sets off a bomb. It sets off a bomb in the bus. So now the bus done blew up and caught on fire. Now, like I said, keep in mind, they sitting in that front seat, right? Chris Tucker and Frenchie, they sitting in that front seat. So it was a reason why they did that, because the back of the bus blew completely off. If you go back and look at the movie, you can see that back end of the bus is gone. Once that bomb went off, it took off the whole backside of that bus. So everybody back there is pretty much dead, right? They dead. They burning up, and they all on the ground on fire. We see the dude that set off the bomb. He gets out the helicopter, and it's like he has a crew with people that has like assault rifles. They shooting the people. They shooting the cops that was on the bus. They shooting the people that was in the back of the bus that happen to still be living. And so they done shot all them. Now we get to Frenchie and Franklin Hatchet, which is Chris Tucker in the movie. His name is Franklin Hatchet in the movie. So we get to that, and he's about to kill the dude with the gun who's clearly working with Frenchie, right? You could tell it's some type of plot where he's with Frenchie. So he's about to kill Chris Tucker, but the only thing that saved Chris Tucker's life at that point was the fact that him and Frenchie was chained up together, and if he had shot Chris Tucker, if he had killed Chris Tucker right there, that would have slowed them down. Think about it. He wouldn't have been able to pull Chris Tucker's weight and then still get away. So he had to keep Chris Tucker alive. That's the only thing that kept Chris Tucker alive at that point, because he was about to kill Chris Tucker. He had the gun pointed at him like that, and he about to kill Chris Tucker. And Chris Tucker talking about, don't shoot. We a team. We need to stick together. And so anyways, they pull they get to the helicopter, right? They get back to the helicopter. And when it's Frenchie, they still chained up. It's Frenchie and Chris Tucker, and they still chained up. And we find out that this guy that set off the bomb, his name is Debray. Now, Debray and Frenchie is on the same team. Chris Tucker is in the helicopter celebrating with them. They happy that, they got away, and Chris Tucker over there talking about, we did it, man. Everybody okay? Everybody all right? And then, they happy, and, Chris Tucker over there talking about, hey, man, you could drop me off over here. My granny, she stay over here. She, you could just hover over the roof. You ain't even got to, land. You could just drop me off. And clearly we could see, like, Frenchie and Debray is getting irritated with what, Chris Tucker is doing, So it's like they whole thing now is that we got to get rid of this guy. You know what I'm saying? We done got away. We done got you off the bus, and we done freed you. We got to get away. Okay? So he gets to the, they up in the air. Keep in mind, they up in the air. They like way up in the air, and they over the ocean. They over the Pacific Ocean. And so Debray and Frenchie's whole idea, now keep in mind, they still chained up into a point. Now what Debray does, he grabs an axe. Like a wooden, like a axe, like a small axe. And so we going like, okay, what he about to do with the axe? Clearly he's about to, chop the chain, so they could, separate the two. Separate, Chris and Frenchie. So next thing we know, he chops the chain where, they separated. Now he's still wearing the cuff. The cuff is still on his arm. Like, he's still wearing the bracelet, attached with the chain, but he's freed away from Frenchie. He's not attached to him no more. So now what they trying to do is dump him into the Pacific Ocean. They open up the helicopter door, and they trying to dump him into the Pacific Ocean. Okay. Chris Tucker already know what's going on. He's like, oh, these guys trying to kill me. They don't want me around no more, of course. So what he basically does is says, he distracts them. He pushes them, and he dives. He jumps out the helicopter, and he dives into the Pacific Ocean. And all we see is a big splash. We just see a big splash where he landed, where Chris Tucker landed. Okay, Debray and Frenchie, they took out some guns, and they started, shooting into the water. Now, keep in mind, they wasn't going to hit him. They wasn't going to hit Chris Tucker with no bullets, because they already done passed over the, well, Chris Tucker did. He pushed them enough to give him a little time to escape. So that bought him a little time, where it was like, by the time they got the guns and started shooting into the water, they already passed the part where Chris Tucker had landed. So they just basically shooting into the water, not hitting nothing. And so they gone. And next thing we know, Chris Tucker is in the Pacific Ocean, and he talking about it's cold. Of course it's cold. You know what I'm saying? Like, So fast forward. He gets out the ocean, and he goes to a payphone. The first person he called is James Russell, Charlie Sheen, the one that got him into this situation. He got him busted at the car wash when he called the police on him. So he calls Charlie Sheen and basically tell him, hey man, meet me at the dock where he was, where he had, swim to the, to shore. He had swim to the dock, and he was basically telling him to meet him right there. So we see Charlie Sheen leaving the news, and keep in mind he worked at the news station. We see him leaving the news station, and see the whole reason that Charlie Sheen even did this and set Chris Tucker up, because it was some type of like bonus called Sweep that they was having at Charlie Sheen's job at the news station. So I guess like whatever they could come up on that was worthy of a news story, they was gonna get paid a bonus or something like that. That's what I'm getting from it. So that's why he was so desperate for a story. So the guy at the news station done fired him and told him, get out of his office, get out of his presence, And so like I said, we see Charlie Sheen reaching for a gun. He has a gun behind a picture. And we see him getting this gun. It's a revolver. And we see him putting it into, he taking it with him to go meet Chris Tucker at the dock. Fast forward, we get to the dock. He meets Chris Tucker, and Chris Tucker basically pushes him into the water. Basically saying, yeah, like, you see what I had to go through earlier. I was in that, and I was cold. So now look at you. So this is basically where Charlie Sheen started telling him, like, hey, man, you want it for murder. And he's basically trying to be on Chris Tucker's side now. He's trying to explain that, hey, I could keep you safe. I could keep you, because keep in mind, when they got Chris Tucker off that bus, they murdered a whole bunch of cops. Now, it wasn't Chris Tucker that was murdering the cops. It was DeBray, Frenchie's friend, that, freed him. They murdered all them cops. So now, of course, because Chris Tucker is attached with Frenchie, he's wanted for murder now. He's got a murder charge on him now. So he's wanted. He's all on the news. They got his picture plastered all up on the news. And so he gets to the point where it's like, okay, he's rolling with Charlie Sheen. And before all that happened, before all that happened, Chris Tucker goes to a diner, right? He goes to a diner, and he happened to run into two cops that just happened to come in here like right after him. He sits down, and keep in mind, Chris Tucker still got the cuff on. You remember when they chopped the cuff off of him? He was still wearing the bracelet attached to it. So he's trying to hide like the fact that he's got a handcuff bracelet on his left arm. So the cops done came into the diner. They done sat down to get coffee or whatever, and it just so happened that the news is on, and they showing Chris Tucker's mugshot. And immediately, we noticed that the police is looking right at Chris Tucker. It's two cops. They looking right at Chris Tucker going like, you show is matching up with the description and how this guy look on this TV right here. And so they not taking their eyes off of Chris. Chris over there getting kind of nervous. He's going like, oh man, like, I'm caught. Next thing we know, they open fire. They open fire inside the diner, and they start shooting inside the diner. And so Chris Tucker somehow get out of there, and they running through like traffic and stuff. And Chris Tucker gets on the back of a bus. And this is kind of me going backwards, because when he got off of that bus, keep in mind, he got on the back of the bus, not inside the bus. He got on the back of the bus. He's on the outside, but he's on the back of the bus. And he's riding on the bus on the back of it. And so when he got off the bus, he seen Charlie Sheen, James Russell picture from Channel 5 News. And he went on and called him. That's when they met him. That's when they met at the docks, okay? Okay, that's when they met at the docks. So we fast forward. They meet up, and basically he's telling him like, hey, I could keep you safe. You just gonna have to hang with me. This is James Russell talking to Chris Tucker. He's saying like, hey man, I can keep you safe. You just gonna have to lay low. You're gonna have to stay with me. He had an apartment like condo building that he was staying at. I'm talking about James Russell. He had like an apartment condo building he was staying at. So he invited him to his place. He had him take a shower, And during the course of him, you know, I guess getting himself together, I'm talking about we talking about Chris Tucker. Chris Tucker went in there and started shaving and, you know, taking a shower and getting himself together. We could see like it's a TV on. It's like a shower TV that James Russell had in there. And we could see him, we could see the TV talking about Vic Damone, right? Vic Damone Jr. And Vic Damone Jr. is this, he's this singer. This is an Italian singer. And so they was talking about how Vic Damone was married to Diane Carroll, you know, and a real life singer, you know what I'm saying? Vic Damone. And so Chris Tucker immediately got the idea of, I'm finna use this as my alias. That's gonna be my alias, Vic Damone Jr. So he started running with it. So okay, we getting ready. Charlie Sheen pulls up in his Mustang, and we see Chris Tucker coming outside the place where Charlie Sheen stayed. He's in a suit. He's in one of Charlie Sheen's suits that he had up. You know, he told him change into something, you know, and, you know, just pick out what you want to wear. And so he comes out in Charlie Sheen's suit, and Charlie Sheen just looking at him like, oh, you had to pick that one, huh? That's my favorite suit. And Chris Tucker was like, don't get mad at me because I look better than you in your own shit. You know, just classic Chris Tucker. So we get to they basically pulling up to Charlie Sheen's father-in-law house. It's this big beautiful mansion. Like clearly it's in Beverly Hills, and you know, they got money. You know, it's just nothing but money around. And so they pull up to this big mansion. And this is Charlie Sheen's father-in-law mansion, you know, future father-in-law mansion, because Charlie Sheen is about to get married. He's about to get married to Heather Locklear, who plays Grace in this movie. Her name is Grace. But Heather Locklear, we meet Heather Locklear. And first of all, before we even get to that, we meet, let me see, Mr. Cipriani, which is Charlie Sheen's future father-in-law, played by Paul Sorvino. Immediately before Chris Tucker could even start talking, Paul is already sold. He's already sold that, oh, you know, because keep in mind, Chris Tucker said, I'm going to start using Vic Damone as my alias, this Italian singer, right? So he started using Vic Damone as an alias and started running with it. And immediately we could see that Mr. Cipriani, Paul Sorvino, he sold on it. He going like, oh, yeah, you know, oh, your name is Vic Damone Jr. You Diane Carl's son and Vic Damone's son, so you half black and half Italian. He's already sold, so, you know, he didn't have to do too much work with him. He's already in there. So, but now we meet Heather Locklear, which is James Russell, Charlie Sheen's fiance in this movie. They about to get married. We meet Heather Locklear, right? And basically, it's a wedding, it's a wedding dinner. It's a wedding dinner, and everybody's there. Like, you could tell there's a lot of people that got money. You know, it's a high class type of party. And so we meet the mother also. We meet the mother-in-law, and immediately she's kind of turned off about the whole thing. First of all, she doesn't like James Russell, which is, you know, her future son-in-law, right? She doesn't like this guy. You know, it's something about him that she just don't like. So, she just put off by the whole thing, and she just looking kind of suspicious at both of them, like, you know, and she even have an awkward relationship with her own daughter. We could see that, like, whenever they communicating with each other, it's a little like, you know, something going on there. So it's kind of off. So we fast forward, and Chris Tucker is making a toast to James Russell about his, you know, his wedding, you know, him getting married. And he's using Barry White lines. You know, he's telling James Russell that, hey, Heather, you're his first, his last, his everything. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, he got all the crowd, you know, just looking at him, and he's making a toast to James and Grace. And so fast forward, we get out the party. Right? Because what happened was, Chris Tucker got on the phone with his girlfriend who was pregnant, and his girlfriend is played by Elise Neal in this movie. Elise Neal, everybody know about Elise Neal. She was in the Hughleys. Most people know her from the Hughley show. If you she's the mother on the Hughleys, and she was married to D.L. Hughley on there. So, you know, Elise Neal. Classic, you know. So she's pregnant, and it's like she done already got word, you know, that he's wanted for murder. You know, basically that he's wanted for murder. You know what I'm saying? They done set him up, and he's wanted for murder. So, and I'm gonna have to pause this video. We'll be right back, y'all.